Wonder how many of you are old enough or been around here long enough that you were involved in our production of Joseph in the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. All right, some folks, good. I have such fond memories of those days. Andrew Lloyd Webber, who wrote that wonderful musical, realized that biblical stories are a great mine for storytelling and for musicals. Some folks think that the Joseph story was destined to be a big American musical hit because its message seems to resonate well with American dreams and hopes. We as Americans love happy ending stories, or at least we used to. Some scholars suggest that the Joseph story may actually have had its origins in the prosperous years of Solomon's reign. And the argument goes that when things are going well, when the economy is good, happy ending stories with all of the rough edges made smooth, the loose ends tied up, the once broken relationships restored are often common. A healthy economy often brings and breeds optimism. Well, the Joseph story really seems quite optimistic. Most of us tingle a little bit when we hear or read that Joseph welcomes back his brothers and they kiss and cry all over each other. Well, I think it is worthy to be encouraged by what happens at the end of the Joseph story. Reconciliation ultimately is what Christianity is all about. We want people to be reconnected. We want people to experience relationships being mended and forgiveness being lived out. We want revenge to be avoided. But a closer look at the Joseph story may suggest to you how hard all of those realities can be. Yes, Joseph forgives his brothers for their throwing him into a pit, leaving him there to die because of their jealousy of him and his relationship to their dad. But forgiveness didn't come quickly for Joseph. If you read the story, you realize Joseph lived out a little revenge. Initially, when the brothers arrive in Egypt, Joseph, the big boss leader, he's in Pharaoh's bureaucracy right now, he seeks to toss his brothers into jail. And then after that, he plays games with them, something that those seeking revenge often do. After the brothers give him and his minions money for the grain that they're seeking in order to avoid famine, Joseph has a servant slip the money back into their sacks, making it look like they never paid anything at all. And then Joseph has his much-loved magical cup. I don't know what that's about, but a much-loved magical cup placed into his youngest brother Benjamin's sack, making it look like Benjamin has stolen this much-loved cup. Joseph had revenge on his mind. And can you blame him? After all, these bums of brothers threw him into a pit. And if it had not been for some hairy Ishmaelites who came along when Joseph was stuck in the pit, he would have died there. Who wouldn't have been more than a little angry? Who wouldn't have wanted to seek revenge? Now, without a doubt, Joseph is a very likable character. He does come through at the end. He eventually embodies the spirit of forgiveness and reconciliation that Jesus is always calling us to. But those gospel-centered callings didn't come quickly or easily for Joseph. And I say that firstly to respect the integrity of the story. You might as well know the whole story. But secondly, I say that to you to encourage you. Forgiveness doesn't often happen overnight. Forgiveness can be a slow process. It isn't frequently a matter of a flip of a switch, But trust me on this one, it's always out in front of you, always out in front of us, calling our name and urging us toward it. This awareness takes me to the third reason I remind you of the slowness of Joseph's movement toward forgiveness. Believe it or not, I really don't think that the primary actor in this story is Joseph. Joseph himself admits that as he confronts his brothers who do not yet know him, but realize that he has the power to destroy them or kill them. Joseph begins his words to these scared brothers by saying, "Come closer to me. Come closer to me. Don't stand at a distance." I love what Walter Brueggemann says about this part of the story. According to him, you cannot resolve family brokenness by an Egyptian resolution, an edict, or a fiat. Hear this plainly. I declare this family is going to get along. And I have to admit, sometimes I think I've resorted to that. I'm just going to legislate it. You're all going to get along. No, Brueggemann says, fixing family brokenness comes by an act of Israelite passion. The power, he says, to create newness doesn't come from detachment, but from risking self-disclosing engagement. Come closer. Draw near. I'm going to share with you my heart, and I'm going to share with you my story. And by the way, to return to my earlier point, my story, Joseph's story, isn't primarily about Joseph. Listen to what Joseph says. "And now do not be distressed, brothers, because of what you did, for God sent me before you to preserve life. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth. It was not you who sent me here, but God." Joseph is not the primary actor in this marvelous story. God is. Something bigger has been going on throughout all of the shenanigans, something that is about life, resurrection, we in the church would call it. There is more to the story than what you did to me. There is more to the story than the pain you inflicted on me. Now, I think, by the way, we got to be careful here, because I think this kind of talk can lead to some unhealthy theology. Unhealthy theology I hear all the time. An unhealthy theology that plagues our nation, and I have to say, just to be honest, plagues West Michigan. It is the God has a plan theology. I remember when I first moved to West Michigan, I remember confronting this theology in all of its rawness when I was told that where I sat at some meeting was a matter of God's plan for me. God wanted me in that chair because of who I got to sit next to. And I thought, no, it was the only chair available. Otherwise, I'd be sitting on the floor. I don't think it was God's plan for Joseph to be tossed into the pit by his nasty brothers. I don't think it was God's plan that you would marry an awful man who abused you. I don't think it was God's plan that your granddaughter died right when she came out of the womb. I don't think it was God's plan that your husband was killed in a motorcycle wreck. I don't think it was God's plan that 6 million Jews were slaughtered by an evil man named Hitler. If it is the God of the plan we worship, then I want to worship something else. What Joseph says today comes not while he's in the pit. And that's what a lot of religion wants you to do. You know, when you're in the middle of the pit, oh, God must have wanted me here. Oh, I'm going to learn something special from this. Baloney. What Joseph says today comes much later, years later. What Joseph says is a reflection on the past. It is a way of saying that all of what occurred brought him to where he is now. It is a way of saying that even amid darkness, light can still shine its purposes. It is as a way of saying, as Desmond Tutu puts it in a hymn that we often sing, goodness is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than hate. Light is stronger than darkness. Life is stronger than death. It is a way of saying that something more is always going on in life. Something more that is not about us or about what has been done to us or not done to us. God is the major actor in the story. Life, even life that is penetrated by pain, is penetrated by something more, something greater. So don't conclude that you are simply what has been done to you. Don't believe that the pain, the abuse, the abandonment that you have known are the defining words in your life. Don't think for one moment that you are the worst thing that you have ever done. And don't for one moment trust that nothing can restore relationships that have really gone sour. Something more is going on in life. God is the primary actor in life. And I think that realization is what drives Jesus to say what he says today in his Sermon on the Plain from Luke. It is definitely a different angle that he's taking. That different angle causes him to say, love your enemies. Yeah, right. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who want to ruin your reputation. That's what they mean by the word abuse you. Give to those who beg from you. Lend, expecting nothing in return. That's a bunch of craziness for the way we normally operate. You bless those who bless you, and you curse those who curse you. And you hit people in the cheek if they hit you in the cheek. And you lend people money if they will give it back to you, and it would be really nice if they add some interest. And you give people gifts if you know that they're going to send you thank you notes. But Jesus says something more is going on in life. He puts it this way, believe it or not, God is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. God, he says, is merciful. And by the way, the word for mercy in Hebrews comes from the word for a woman's womb. God is like a caring, protective mother's womb that compassionately brings forth life. There is mercy in the universe. Mercy, compassion, forgiveness, grace, love. They are what create life. They penetrate all of life. All of your stories, even those stories full of great pain. And they ultimately will bring all of life to a great and beautiful conclusion. So, love your enemies. Give up on revenge. Leave violence in the dust. Let womb-like mercy find you. And let compassion and forgiveness be the hound of heaven that tracks you down. Let the more lead you to more.